So we're live on YouTube now, Mike.
Fantastic.
I just saw for the first time, Mike. I don't know if you've seen this before, but when we go live, it says that we can broadcast for up to 8 hours.
Oh man, we could dominate.
Yeah.
We could dominate.
What would happen if we did an 8-hour podcast?
I only have time for one marathon this year, buddy.
Wait a second. Hold on. Right. Well, how about this? How about we do
Oh no.
we do Mystery Science Theater 3000, like we do a riff track while we watch a movie, and
Oh.
then parlay on something else, because that would be stupid to do it right after. Well, no, I mean sort of debrief.
Yeah, we could talk about
I mean,
it.
we could push that. That would be like 3 or 4 hours at least, right there, right?
Yeah, although nobody's really ever said, "Hey, you guys need to go longer."
Longer. Yeah, but somebody may have said in their heart and mind, they may have said, you know what, I wish I could listen to these guys while I'm trying to watch a movie.
You know what? I bet people are
That
like,
might have happened.
I'm sitting here watching her, and I wish somebody would just make fun of this movie. And these guys would probably do it.
Well, yeah, that's a great example, Mike. That's a great example. because this entire episode is about how you don't like good movies. All right, I am recording in GarageBand. Hold on, I've got a metronome into my ear. That needs to stop right now. Hold on. Sorry. Hey, YouTube. Welcome. We're going to be talking about movies here in a second if you're listening. Turning all that off. Okay. We're going to be talking about Captain America the Winter Soldier, actually. A little belatedly here. All right, I am now silently recording.
All right,
What about you? You're rolling. All right, let's sync in 3, 2, 1.
All right, there you go.
Sounded good? All right. Okay, and maybe we'll have a little Q&A in here as well. That worked out well last time.
Yeah, did you listen to some of that? It turned out pretty funny in the back end.
Carrie said she loved it, and it was pretty funny. I cut out.
Nice.
You threw me under the bus. I was like trying to be a little bit funny with his questions, and you were like, no, stop it. And you just you gave your advice. I was like, jeez. So I cut out my input into the whole Q&A and just let you run with it.
Oh, that's why it's funny. It's because I just cut you off and derail you.
You did derail me. That sounded dirty.
Well, when you said it with that inflection, it sounded pretty dirty.
You
You
derailed.
sounded a little bit happy about it, like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. It was good."
You're such a dork. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Hello and welcome to the Film Parley. It's a conversational podcast about movies and things related to movies, guys. My name is Tim Dennison,
And I'm Mike Laswell.
and this is our 52nd episode, wherein we will actually step back in time a bit and discuss a film that's been out there for a while, but we have yet to be able to talk about, and that is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Boom.
Before we get there, though, Mike, I wanted to know, how are you and what are you drinking? I'm sorry, that kind of threw me off because we're doing a little bit more streamlined podcast, right? Normally, there's
Yep.
more going on in a show, and so the intro is a little bit longer, and then I realized that was the end of the intro and the end. So,
And here's the hot potato.
okay, so Mike, now with my extemporaneously extended intro, how are you and what are you drinking?
Well, I'll keep mine short and blunt. I'm good. I'm drinking whiskey. No, I'm not drinking whiskey, although I should because that sounds really good.
Yeah.
However,
You're not drinking water, are you?
No,
Oh, good.
even though I did just run 8 miles.
You had to slide it in there. I'm a little bit better than you.
Yep. Just put in the. I could tell you how much I did over the past 3 days, and
I
then
think I know how
there would
much
be
you
no
did
recovery.
because you texted me earlier. It's 35 miles. 35 miles in 4 days.
That's 36.
Oh,
So yeah, you're wrong. So
all right. Well, that's right. 'Cause we talked about your math skills, I think, in the last episode.
yeah,
And we couldn't figure out how to add like
the
16
machine.
to 94. But just for the record, you did say you
I
did
get it.
28 and 7, and that does equal 35.
Yes, you're right.
Or was it
I did
8
say
and
that.
8?
It was 8 yesterday, and then 8 today, and then
Oh.
20 on Saturday.
Oh, there you go. So it wasn't 8 and 7.
So
All right. I'm done.
all right, now back to what I'm drinking. I did down some water earlier so that I could partake in a great big glass of White Russian.
Oh,
Just
brilliant.
enough left. Oh yeah, yeah. And since we're doing this kind of impromptu, we're gonna streamline it. Streamline it.
Streamline it.
Up. We're gonna make things a lot longer by messing up how we talk about stuff. Yeah, I just went in, grabbed all of the ingredients, and I said, "There's just enough here for one
White
delicious
Russian.
White Russian." So
Caucasian.
Tim,
Well done.
I'm going to be drinking that, and you tell me now, sir.
What do you
Here's
want to
the
know?
hot potato. How are you? And what are you drinking?
Mike, I'm doing fine. I'm a little bit tired. I spent all day in the yard today. As you know, the house in which I reside has a backyard with used to be a pool, a 40-foot by 20-foot,
Sheesh.
9-foot deep pool that was drained long ago and then used as a landfill. Not for yard debris, but for things like hot water heaters
Oh, jeez.
and
No kidding.
toilets and roofing, screen doors, all that kind of stuff. So
Wow.
I have by
Wow.
hand shoveled, and as well as dirt and yard debris and things like that. I have shoveled all of the organic material, nearly all of it, out of the pool or around to clean areas of the pool and removed the non-organics from the pool, taken them to the dump. I believe I've taken something like 7 or 8 tons of
No way.
material to the dump, almost exclusively from the pool, and am now in the process. I'm ready to fill it in, but of course it's gonna take a lot. So anyway, I chanced upon a guy who had 60 cubic yards of fill dirt, and he was gonna deliver it almost for free, very very cheaply, and rent me a Bobcat for super cheap.
Nice.
So I spent the day doing some last dump runs and preparing for that dump runs. Are you chuckling about that? Yeah, I thought you might be. Anyway, so it turns out sitting in front of a computer or taking photos all day does not prepare you
Nope.
for like a full day of manual labor. I am a candy ass is what it is. There are other people out there who work all day lifting heavy things, sweating,
Yep.
wearing Carhartt jackets in 90-degree weather,
Yeah.
and I am so thankful for those people, and I am so thankful I am not one of those people. Of course,
Yeah.
of course, if I
Jeez.
was, I would be less of a candy ass, but I am who I am. And anyway,
We love your candy ass.
so anyway, pushed a bunch of dirt around and went to the dump a few times, and now I've got a Bobcat sitting in my backyard, and I'm super excited to drive it tomorrow.
Yeah, dude, that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
You gotta
so-
send me a picture. You
We're rocking
around
the
that.
Bobcat. All
Yeah.
right.
are
Will
you
do. Yeah.
You guys are filling that thing in? You're not gonna like renovate the pool and
Oh
have
God, no,
a nice
no,
pool?
no. It's way. There was no way to ever renovate it. It's been destroyed for quite some time. Unrecoverable. Yeah. So we're gonna fill it in. We're gonna hopefully get a nice lawn, over the top, and just have a nice backyard.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
that
what
was
are
a
you
long
drinking?
story. I poured myself a bourbon
All
on the
right.
bourbon on the rocks tonight. I'm not gonna say it's all right. It's ancient age. It's the cheap bourbon, okay? But it's the
Fine.
cheap bourbon that still
I
tastes
knew it.
pretty good, right? Because you can get some bottom shelf stuff that tastes like nasty shiz, and this doesn't. This is we've talked about it before. Is an acceptable cheap bourbon. So let me. I'm gonna have a
Good.
sip. I'm gonna have a sip right now. Mm. Acceptable. That's what you want to hear, right? Take a drink.
Mm,
Acceptable.
I find this to be just about right.
Nope, not even right. Just acceptable. All right.
I gotta mix mine a little bit.
There you go. That sounds like a White Russian.
So
So let's
yes, I
talk.
am
We're going
using
to
a
talk about some movies
screwdriver to mix
before we
this.
get right into before we get into the featured discussion, Mike. If
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
don't mind. Um, Before we get there, there were just three quick news bits that I wanted to mention in our
Oh yeah.
news segment. Um, Two of them are actually related to the Marvel Universe, so it's appropriate. But the first one is not, and the first one is this. It's, it is it is not it's not confirmed as done yet, but there are talks that Lethal Weapon may be rebooted, which I
Hmm.
mean it's a buddy cop action thriller with the name Lethal Weapon, right? So it's
Right.
kind of funny to talk about it, but I don't care because they're talking about rebooting the franchise with Chris Hemsworth in the starring role. So
Oh.
not a done deal, but I kind of would watch almost anything that he is in. So and Lethal Weapon sounds, it's got a little bit of a comedic edge. There's some action. I think that would be fun. I think he's going to play the Danny Glover character.
That would be great.
Boy, I thought maybe you would laugh at that. There was just silence. Just silence. Mike's new MO is just throwing me under the bus. Last week it happened during Q&A.
I
And
don't even know what you're talking about. Like it's like you've never been thrown under the bus, and you're like, I think, I think that fits. Yep.
what? I
Because
have been.
I didn't throw you under the bus. I didn't.
Yeah, you did. I will.
Throwing you under the bus would be like, dude, you don't know because you've never kissed a woman. That would be throwing you under the bus. But just saying like, no, it's you got to get to the meat of
That wouldn't
the
make any
subject. That's what I was
sense.
saying.
All right. Nobody knows what we're talking about at this point. Let's move on to the next bit of news.
Yeah, so go back and listen. We did a whole Q&A. This is for all the audience right now.
Well, here's the thing. I
Did
know
a
the
whole
audience,
Q&A.
nobody's gonna get it because I cut my comments out because I started to say something. You
I'm really
interrupted
glad you
me.
brought it up then.
Yeah, right. I started saying something. You interrupt me, and basically say shut up, and answer the question yourself. And I thought, okay. I mean, you're right. It was a great answer. It was funny. I felt like maybe I should just not be part of that conversation. Uh, so no, you can't go
So I
back.
didn't throw you under the bus. I steamrolled you. That's what I did. That's what that is. That's what happens. When that happens, that's a steam. I just steamrolled the conversation.
You've
Throwing you under the bus is like making you take the blame for something. So like, but let's just be clear that when you say you started to answer the question, it was like a good
it's not
5 minutes worth of a
not
start.
exclusively a blame situation. Throwing you under the bus is like is putting it's throwing you into a place where you get trampled, like being steamrolled. Like it's the same thing.
No.
Okay. And this has been Colloquialisms with Mike. Next bit of news. All right, so Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., though
Here we go.
nobody apparently watched it last year, or at least the people who did watch it almost unanimously seem to say it sucked. Um, though there was some wind of it, like catching fire and doing well in the second half. It has been renewed for a second season.
Huh.
That is almost undoubtedly due to the Winter Soldier's success, because there was a lot of overlap between Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Winter Soldier.
Really?
Oh, yeah. A couple of the characters in the Winter Soldier are from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, well, we'll talk about when we get to Winter Soldier. But it exposed a lot of overlap, and you see a lot more of the Winter Soldier story build up to it and consequences from it in the show. So that's the first bit of S.H.I.E.L.D. news. The second bit is that Captain America's Agent Carter, so she was young and attractive in the first one and awkwardly old in the Winter Soldier.
Oh.
Right, he visits her at the bedside.
Yep.
She's actually getting her own show. So
That's great.
it'll be set in the I guess the 40s, post Steve Rogers' departure, post Steve Rogers' completely unnecessary departure. And she will be balancing being an agent with being a single woman,
Yep.
with being
You ladies out there.
doing apparently special secret missions for Robert Downey Jr.'s father.
Right.
Howard Stark, I think, is his name.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so that's coming up. I don't know that it's next season, probably the year after that, but those are in the works. And then also, Mike, and I thought you would be particularly excited to hear this. I don't know if we've talked about already on the show, but Netflix is going to be producing 4 new Marvel series
No way.
that do exist in the current Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the first one is going to be Daredevil. It's going to be it's going to be dark. It's going to be noir, and it's basically going to be a 13-hour movie.
No way.
And the other series, which I can't remember off the top of my head who the other series will feature, but they will all 4 lead to a crossover series, where all the characters are involved with each other. I don't know if it'll be a crossover event. I'm not sure if it's a series or if it's going to be a kind of a Netflix movie that involves those 4 characters. But they're doing Daredevil up right, and I thought you'd be pleased with that.
Well, I do have a special place in my heart for Daredevil. And I believe that you also have a special place in your heart.
One of our early short films that Mike and I did together was a script
really
Mike wrote, and it involved Daredevil, and no one will ever see it ever again. It's awful.
It is. It's terrible. It's basically like the person that the Daredevil superhero is based off of is some like fat lazy dude that is blind and believes that he himself can find somehow. And we come to find out through this little story that he actually can't, and it's pretty pathetic.
Right.
So
Arnold McFeeters.
There's some funny.
That was his name, Arnold McFeeters. All right.
Which, by the name, you can tell he's not.
Right.
He's not a strapping young man. All right, so
we absolutely should. Let's get right into our discussion of not right into it, because I want to do a little preamble here and have you kind of explain something. In our discussion of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, in our last episode, we talked a little bit about, Mike, your disappointment. From my perspective, your inexplicable disappointment with Captain America: The First Avenger. But when we were talking about Winter Soldier and how it was receiving nearly universal acclaim, Mike, you thought that perhaps you might enjoy. And I countered that the first film, the first Avenger, also got nearly universal acclaim, and yet that still wasn't good enough for you. So your homework was to get out there and see the Winter Soldier, so we could talk about it. We're gonna get there, but I thought maybe if you would reset your perspective, your take on that first film, and help us again to understand why you don't like good movies.
Well, here under the bus. Um,
I didn't blame you for anything.
right. So if I can use your colloquialism the way that you would and mispronounce everything. um, so yeah, you did mention everything you just said is true. We did talk about Winter Soldier, and we did talk about its universal acclaim. It's wildly popular acclaim and positive acclaim. And I did say, how's that possible? Because the first movie was absolute garbage. Now, this may not be a verbatim quote, but essentially I was just astonished because for me, and to be honest, I was hoping that I would have a chance to go watch it, so I would have some more specific items to pinpoint in this discussion. However, that didn't happen. So I'm going to have to kind of give you the real quick and the quick and dirty. We're going to go with quick and dirty on this one, Tim. The last time I saw Captain America was probably a month ago. I caught most of it on television. And I remembered thinking about it because you and Jelani had a discussion about the ending of it, and I just remember sitting back and letting you guys kind of hash it out. And then I started to watch it this last time thinking about what you guys had said. And it was something along the lines of Jelani is the hopeless optimist and believes that there's always a reason behind everything. And Tim said, no, this is just poor filmmaking and the ending makes no sense. So with those two in my pocket, I went and sat down for, and I picked up the film right about when Rogers is in the movie theater telling the big dude to shut up, and he gets called out for it, and he starts fighting with some guy, and you learn that he just doesn't know when to give up, and he's just this petulant young pugilist.
Well played.
So yeah, and I got to be honest, the first half up until he becomes Captain America is a lot of fun watching him. I mean, it's a David and Goliath kind of feel where you have this guy that's just overcoming huge obstacles because he just is not built for the world. He's just tiny and he's scrawny, and he doesn't have a hope to accomplish much, and yet he does, and he just does it with this really inscrutable optimism. It's just a delight to watch. The problems start after, I guess, towards the last third. Because the film takes the very sensible route of not making him a superhero right away and kind of parading him around at these USO shows, which I thought was really smart.
Agreed.
And probably I was going to say the smartest decision that they made, but I think the first half, there's a lot of credit there that I would be missing out on.
So far,
so
your
the
opinions
last bit.
Good job.
So the last bit, the problems come when we're expected to believe that he is Captain America is supposed to be this incredible tactician who has superhuman capabilities, and I guess not superhuman, but it's supposed to be taking humanity to the fullest potential. So he's supposed to be as strong as a human being could ever get, as fast and as healthy and all that stuff, and is capable of regenerating, so forth and so on. So where does all this end up? We have a guy who doesn't really explain anything, and he doesn't have a lot of really overt superpowers, and so he ends up like charging into battlefields, and a whole bunch of people around him die, and he throws his shield around, and he should be dying. I remember specifically they charge the fort where the Red Skull is preparing to launch their ship, um, and he ends up knocking out several people and shooting several people, and then a whole bunch of his side gets killed, which isn't the problem. But then he gets captured by four dudes with flamethrowers that proceed to just put up a wall of flame around him. Now, this is a guy who can apparently jump like 15 feet in the air, and yet these flamethrower dudes catch him, which just felt like a moment where you go, oh, the writers needed him to get caught.
Okay.
And so they have several moments like that. There's another moment where they're trailing the ship, and Rogers has to get onto the ship, and they're driving in the car super fast to get to it, and there's a lot of like we're making the audience believe certain things that just don't work, with him catching up to it. And there's I think a common thread that kind of escalate, or the pinnacle of which is the decision at the end where he just has to put the plane down, and it's kind of like the whole time the writers are just like,
okay,
we need this to happen, and we need this to happen, and we need Rogers to get on the ship so that he can fight the Red Skull, so he's got to get through this, and we need him to get caught so this happens. And essentially that the whole last third is made up of like just really silly forced action sequences,
okay,
and stuff like that.
all right.
And that
So
kind
fair
of
enough.
end
Like,
up there.
yeah, I mean, so whereas I'm sensitive enough to just not be able to buy the the final decision.
Go on.
Thanks. The final decision. Your sensitivity was, even higher, and was picking up some of those like, wait, what a sec, why are they doing this right now? And it was that was actually happening a little bit earlier in the film for you. So I mean I think that's actually happening in every movie. It's just the extent to which they've laid the groundwork,
Right.
so that you are not noticing those things, or you're willing to accept them. And I was willing to accept them right up until the absurd decision at the end.
It is.
But I can see where you might have a little bit of a problem with some of those decisions beforehand. But like thematically, and the character of Rogers himself, and just the mood and the tone and the art direction and whatnot. Were you not engaged by that stuff?
I wouldn't say that I wasn't engaged. It felt very down to earth in a lot of ways. The way that they didn't make it a costume that he was wearing, and that it was more of that they, like I said, they put him on parade, and he became a symbol that way. And then that move was grounded, and the fact that they had intelligence behind things like that, and then could adapt them to some of the aspects where he had to be more of a superhero, that kind of stuff, that kind of really, it was accentuated for me.
Okay.
So yeah, to your point, it is the character is great, and the fact that they placed it in the Nazi era and World War II was a brilliant idea. And there's a lot of things that work for this. So I would have to recant and say that it's not absolute garbage.
Okay.
I would say though that it's closer to like I would put Green Lantern below it.
Okay.
But I would say that it's still in the bottom canon for me.
Okay. All right. Well, of course, different universe there, but
sure.
DC canon and Marvel canon. I see what you're saying. It has elements that remind me. Just because of the time period, but of The Rocketeer. I don't know if you remember The Rocketeer, but that's a Disney movie that I always enjoyed as a kid, and well, not a kid, but a younger person. And anyway, I love that time period, and anyway, I was with them for most of it for sure. So we flash forward, we got a sequel. It's not set in the past, so it does not have that going for it. Let me throw down what I basically thought of Winter Soldier, and then this entire podcast is leading, like, it exists because we need to know whether Winter Soldier satisfied you, Mike. I thought
Jeez.
Winter Soldier was a wonderfully competent action thriller that also did a really nice job of advancing the giant Marvel Universe story arc forward. Great action set pieces that didn't rely too heavily on digital effects. I mean, they're there. It just wasn't obviously, digital. It wasn't like a Green Lantern or a Thor kind of
Hulk,
digital movie. It just some good. I don't know, even more satisfying than Man of Steel. Like, Man of Steel is all just punching people really hard, just running into people over and over again. This was fighting, This was punching people, and you could feel it, and it felt like the punches mattered. And I don't know, it had even some of that. And again, not the overall movie, but just some of the. I was reminded just slightly of like the original Die Hard, just in the way it was. I mean, it's a $170 million movie, but it had a little bit of grit to it. It's slick, but there's just an undercurrent of kind of sweaty machismo. I don't know, fun. It was hard hitting. It was a lot of fun. I still enjoyed Steve Rogers, though maybe not as much out of him this time around, just because we're not being introduced to him. His character is still great, but part of the problem with his character in movies is that he's already the guy, both inside and outside, that everybody wants to be. Like, he's everyone's best self, internally and physically. So it's difficult dramatically to have him start in any one place and go anywhere else, because he's already at the finishing place. So he'd have to actually become a worse person, which you're not going to do to have him, change. And so that's kind of hamstringing the story. And I thought they got around it reasonably well. With kind of now his uncertainty is in how to live in this new world, but he is still acting as the moral compass, and that was fun. I wasn't, honestly, I was up and down with Robert Redford through the movie, and I still don't know how I feel about him and his role and where they took that, but minor details. It was a fun action movie. It is not. Other people said like it's the best of the Marvels, of the Marvel Universe films, or at least on par with Avengers. Avengers is still in another world, but this was very good. Definitely second tier, right behind Avengers, and one that I wouldn't hesitate to purchase and watch repeatedly. I thought it was a lot of fun, and that's not even mentioning any of the. I mean, there's a lot about the Winter Soldier that we'll save for the spoiler section, that gives detail to why it was a lot of fun. But boy, if anyone hasn't seen it at this point, it is absolutely still worth going out and checking out. A lot of fun. Mike, can't wait to hear it. How was it?
So yeah, we went and saw it over this last weekend.
Draft House.
Yep, we went inside the Draft House, and there's a lot of pre-roll at the Draft House of like fan-made YouTube videos and like Captain America in Turkey and some of the TV shows that they've done, some early TV shows, and just a whole bunch of like cartoons, and just it was all over the place. And I mean, they do a great job just setting the tone of what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah,
it's
fantastic.
Blast. So we went, and
is this you and your wife, or did you take a nephew? Or okay?
No, it was myself and my wife, and my wife actually jumped at the idea. Like, we were talking about going to see something else. I'm trying to think. Oh, we were going to go see Neighbors, and then I said, or we could go see Winter Soldier. And she's like, yeah, let's go see Winter Soldier. It's supposed to be great. So that was encouraging.
Now, was she familiar with? Did she see the first Avenger?
She did. I don't know that she would. be able to pull any points out of it. I don't know that it stuck with her, I guess is what I'm saying. But
But at least familiar.
yeah, she's familiar with it and she knows what's up. And she loved the Avengers, which, that's why we're still married. So um,
I can think of a couple other reasons you're still married.
anyway,
Say that. Okay.
So overall experience was, I mean, we just had a lot of fun. It's really it's really great. And for everybody that can't see, Tim is jovially giddy right now. And it bears the redundancy. He's just absolutely through the roof that I loved this movie. And I did. We had such a fun time.
Good.
I loved the way they went with it. Where the story was not nearly as catastrophic that it would need all of the Avengers, but it was just enough that, like Cap was the perfect fit for it, and it was a human story, and you had a great, I thought, story arc and just intrigue throughout the whole thing. And with that being said, I had listened to a podcast. Still entitled with Adam Savage, and they spoiled it. Like I didn't realize, but they full on were like, this happens and this happens and this happens, and this was my favorite part, and I didn't care for this part. And even with that, I still thoroughly enjoyed it.
Brilliant!
There was still some, because I just look forward to seeing. You hear people talk about it, but you still look forward to seeing how it's actually executed on screen. And with that going in, man, it was still a blast, and we can talk a little bit more in detail. But I thought Cap did a great job, or their development of Cap as a superhuman, and the way that they highlighted that but didn't overuse it. I thought they did an excellent job with a lot of it. So
yeah,
I'm sitting here and I'm really glad we had the conversation last week to spurn us on to go see it. So
good.
Go.
Fantastic. I'm glad that worked out because that was one that I didn't understand. I understand your perspective a little bit more on the first one, but I was really hoping you'd enjoy this one. I want to just talk about details that you thought were really strong in this. Yeah. So in order to do that, we do need to move on and
Do it.
Okay, but hold on.
Do it.
This is seriously, because in fact, Mike, I should even warn you. I had stuff spoiled for me, Mike, that we'll have to discuss in the spoiler section if you want spoiled for you. And it's not even I think I'm gonna spoil it for you. I'm gonna give you some information that I got, and then we're gonna guess at what it means.
Yes.
But if you want to have no idea what's going on in the Marvel Universe going forward, and be completely surprised by it, we don't have a huge, spoiler or knowledge of what's going on. But I wish I didn't know.
It's coming.
So I'm gonna give that knowledge I wish I didn't have to Mike in the coming thing in this section that we like to call spoilers.
Spoilers. I got the feedback warning. Spoilers. Spoilers. Oh man, I get so amped up to do the spoilers thing. It's a lot of fun.
We got the feedback warning vocalized in the
yeah. Okay. I was really going, man.
All right, so first thing that I want to bring up is just what they do. Well, I'll get to that in a second. But I thought, but this is just great. I mean, when you think about how a story will be told in terms of a first, a second, a third act, in a normal 2-hour movie,
yep.
And sort of the beats that they hit, we are now just we're a few films into the second act, right? And I believe the second act climax will be the Avengers sequel, Age of Ultron. And so you expect things to start going wrong. You know what I mean? And like if this was one story, this is
Sure.
where a lot of movement happens. And I love how this, like, Thor 2 didn't it, it didn't it was a nice adventure. It was fun, but it didn't really advance the universe forward. And in this film, they destroy Shield, which
Right.
is why the Avengers exist in the first place. And I thought that was a great move, um, and makes me wonder, man, what is in store? What does the Avengers 2 look like if Shield doesn't exist? Or if Shield has to change the way it looks. And tie that back in with the fact that there's a show called The Agents of Shield that just got renewed, and yet it's in the same universe as the place, where Shield just got destroyed. And I love again, on the television show, I know for a fact, Mike, the guy that I think his name was Sitwell in Winter Soldier, he
Okay. Yeah.
was they dangled him over, they dropped him off the roof, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That guy that ended up being, he's been part of the television series. And
I gotcha.
I'm not I'm not certain I would take merely a trip to IMDb to find this out, but I think that the girl, the nurse, quote unquote nurse, that turned
Yeah.
out to be an agent of Shield that lived next
Yeah.
to him, I think that she is in the series as well. It's like she's been living next to Steve Rogers this whole time, you know what I mean? And I love that
Gotcha.
they're doing that they're, putting all these layers in there like that, and that they've changed the game in terms of Shield. Like, all of their resources, if they exist, they're probably Hydras at this point. I love that they
Right.
bring back Hydra. I think if you recall from your last Captain America viewing, Red Skull doesn't really die. He sort of gets taken up in a
Right.
Thor-like transport, so we could see Red Skull come back. Anyway, but just in terms of that drama, to remove Shield and have them dealing with the fact that they're no longer resourced by the government, I think is a great move. You got to make things harder and harder and harder for your characters. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I mean, that was, um, the whole, they did a lot of things along those lines, specifically with Nick Fury and Shield and Robert Redford and just dismantling the things that you have as your steadfast rock, the things that you go back to and that should be there. The thing that got spoiled for me was that Nick Fury gets shot.
Okay.
And by the way, that car chase was brilliantly done. And it was a great introduction to the Winter Soldier. I mean,
Nice.
you're
Yeah.
watching all this stuff happen, and you're watching him. You're watching Nick Fury go through all of this just intense kidnap attempt and car chase. And then all of a sudden the Winter Soldier shows up, and you think that it's going to be over there, and it just keeps going. So Nick Fury, and I mean, you're left kind of wondering. It's all in Steve Rogers' hands.
Yeah.
And I love when there's that, like the world just shrinks. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden everything is foreign, and it's you versus everything, and what are you going to do? And then, of course, Black Widow shows up, and then it just becomes like a buddy cop film for the rest of the movie. So,
Right. Were you okay with that? I mean, the way their partnership and how that moved?
yeah, because it didn't seem like a partnership. Like, it seemed like when Rogers goes and talks to Nick Fury about, he said, after the first mission, which I thought the first mission was brilliantly executed. You get Rogers jumping out the plane
So good.
without the parachute, and then taking down the boat, and then the rest of the guys are parachuting on. And then you see Black Widow doing some other stuff, and Rogers confronts Nick Fury about it, and he says,
About it, yeah.
"What's going on?" and you find out that they work in the same building, but they're not on the same necessarily. They're not on the same operation, and there was always that kind of tension, and then uh, because you just don't know where her allegiances really lie
Hmm.
necessarily. You know that she's helping the Avengers because it saves the world, and you know that kind of stuff uh, forces her to be a good guy, but she's willing to just do whatever.
Hmm.
And then you have uh, Rogers, who's just a straight arrow, no matter what.
Right.
So I think their partnership is, I think it's a nice balance between his straight arrow and her um, more colorful past. I think there's some cool choices made with that.
Yeah, and
What do you think?
I thought well, I enjoyed it. I mean, Scarlett is I want to like her more,
Yeah,
as an actress, because there have been moments of brilliance, between Lost in
yeah,
Translation and Ghost World, and she's also Scarlett Johansson. I mean, like, yeah, um, eh, but I don't. At Black Widow, she's sort of more of a functional character, and
yeah.
I don't
I can
see
see that.
her ability really coming out in that character, and that kind of frustrates me a little bit. Um, Plus, we don't get to see her boobs, so I'm gonna cut
Yeah, it's
that
kind of a
part. That's
toss off.
sorry. Um, so that was fine. I mean, there were lots of little back and forth interplays. I liked how I mean it was all a nice setup for Steve being able to be a great guy. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like he was able to give her really good advice and be encouraging to her because of who she was so I thought that setup was nice. And look, I don't think Chris Evans gets enough credit for pulling off this Boy Scoutier than Superman of a Boy Scout. Excuse me.
Well, yeah,
But
he
doing it
is
in a
essentially. Yeah,
really,
go ahead.
in a really attractive way, like a really earnest and sort of. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that be like, that want to sort of deride his optimism and his black and white way of seeing the world. And yet he does it in a way that I think it makes those things attractive, which is kind of interesting in this day and age that would
Yeah.
be a piece of pop culture where it's like where you're not constantly subverting his way of viewing the world. They're almost kind of upholding his way of viewing the
Right.
world, um, without making a completely one-sided story. I mean, Nick Fury defends not telling everybody everything in the name of
Right.
national defense, and and you could be like, you kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, Steve, you're kind of outdated and sort of altruistic and, well, or idealistic in that regard. Of course it bites Fury in the butt, and um it turns out the whole strike first business is as dastardly as Steve thought it would be.
Right.
And it kind of is. So anyway, it was that all plays. Obviously, that's part of the plot, but they're not shoving it down your throat. But they're also obviously commenting on the current times, and I thought they did
Right.
so pretty well.
Which I figured. I mean, I liked the interplay of that with like the current times. We're talking about transparency, and Snowden is a big deal, and all that kind of stuff, and
Right.
privacy rights, and how much information are we giving up, and how much information do we have rights to, and the way that they folded that back in um, as a part of the story. I thought they did that really seamlessly.
Mm.
Uh, but then there was a moment that frustrated me when they were just talking about um, I forget the scientist's name, but he invented the algorithm, which
Right.
was kind of just like the MacGuffin for we need to move the plot along. And I don't know what were your thoughts. I mean, you have the two sides of the altruism of Rogers in this time where transparency is a big deal, but nobody is flawless enough to be truly transparent,
All right.
except for him. And then you have the necessity that Fury talks about with compartmentalizing and not having complete transparency. But at the same time, he's willing to talk with Rogers about what's going on. You know what I mean? So there's an element of communication that's open. So I don't know. What do you think about that whole um, information gathering and farming side of the movie?
Ah, man. I thought it was interesting, and sometimes people have arguments over things that they shouldn't be having arguments about in a movie just because we needed added drama.
Sure.
Here, it made sense that Steve would be upset about this. And it also makes sense that Nick Fury would be like, "Look, I'm sorry. Like this is
Right.
how the world works now, you know." And so those were both their perspectives are valid, um, and I think the movie kind of comes down, sort of, you know, on Steve's side by saying like, look where all of this other business has gotten us, but it doesn't make Fury and his view of things. It doesn't make him out to be an idiot either. This
Or a
that is
villain.
right, exactly. I feel like it was, he recognizes that things have gone too far and helps bring back a balance. It's interesting, or it will be interesting seeing where they go from here, because the natural way of things would be to rebuild an agency and then do all the same stuff all over again, but have it be clean. And the real question is, like, was it only a bad idea to have a lack of transparency and to keep secrets and to do business how they've been doing business because there were spies inside, or is it a bad idea in general? Coming out of this movie, it's at least a bad idea because there were spies inside. But could you rebuild Shield? And could
Could
you
you do it
build?
right?
Is it even possible? If it was possible, would it be a good idea? Then the question is it even possible? And the answer to both of those may actually be no. And I feel like those questions are still out there, possibly to be explored in the future. And in the end, like, at the same time, this is just an action movie. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's an
Right.
action thriller. It's not really trying to solve those things. It's just that's what's on a lot of people's minds, and it's very astute of them to kind of incorporate it naturally into the story. So I thought it was really good.
So with that that being said, I mean the main thread of this film is along the lines of what is happening at Shield. Hydra has infiltrated and has essentially taken over. Um, Shield needs to either be completely destroyed or rebuilt separately, and then all of that is being tackled by one person who's left without any resources, and I guess two people. But then all of a sudden, this dude shows up, and for me, this was kind of like I didn't mind it, but I could see how it would dawn regarding this because the Winter Soldier shows up to do the dirty work, and he's just being used by, and I know that that's part of his story, that he is just totally um, messed up in the head by Hydra and then just used to do their dirty work. But
Right.
it felt like he could have just been replaced by any other bad gun wielding bad guy. Like that aspect kind of played out at the end with when Rogers and him have their final
Uh-huh.
confrontation. But I don't know, for layering's sake, it was entertaining still, but he felt very much like uh, an added aspect to the film. Like the film's called The Winter Soldier, but it's really more about a lot of different things. And then he kind of shows up, and you don't really figure out what's going on with him until after about 2/3 of the film.
Right. So my first question with that, in that regard is, were you surprised at who he was?
Yeah,
When
I
that
had
reveal was
that
made.
was an aspect that I had known about when the film was being released. my nephew came up to me and was like, "Oh my gosh, it's the Winter Soldier. He's this and this and this," and he kind of laid out all the information about it. And honestly, I don't know that this is the biggest spoiler. That the Winter Soldier turns out to be the man that fell. That was
Bucky
uh,
Barnes, Steve
Bucky.
Rogers' best friend.
Yes, from way back in the day, they grew up together, and there was a couple of moments that were nice between them in this film. But for me, that reveal wasn't necessarily the I don't know. It wasn't the reveal of the film. Like, I wouldn't go back to see how they executed that. There's a lot more of the intrigue and mystery behind the film that I wanted
Yeah,
that I'd go back for. You
sure.
know.
I found I mean I that was the thing that Jelani had mentioned to me, that it was, that it was Bucky Barnes, and I went in knowing that. I think that it would have been a little bit, having seen Captain America recently, to go back and have him be,
Sure.
alive in the sky. I think that was kind of cool. You are right. He doesn't play. He's more of a pawn, a really ferocious pawn,
Right.
in this film. Why is it named after him? I think that might have something to do with the fact, and here's the spoiler that I was referring to earlier,
Uh-oh.
that the actor, I'm drawing a blank on his name. I want to say his
Uh-oh.
first name
Let's
is
see who's here.
Stanislaw, or something. Yeah. Oh no. Sebastian
Sebastian Stan.
Stan. He has a 9-picture deal with Marvel Studios.
Really?
So he is going to be in all of these movies, and it makes me wonder, who does, in whatever comic the Winter Soldier originated in, who does he eventually become? Because I forget, Steve Rogers, I think, has a total of 6 pictures that he's going to be in. He's already been in 4,
Is that right?
3, 4. So he's got Avengers 3 and Captain America. No, he's got Avengers 2, Avengers 3, and Captain America 3 left. So he's been 3 of his 6. Sebastian Stan is going to be in 9 pictures. So is that, is that just he'll end up being in Thor 3, and he'll be in Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man
Yeah.
and whatnot? Or, I wonder, do they have
Spin-off.
some, long range? Yeah, is he going to get his own film? Does he become, I comics do this all the time. Does he become Captain America after Captain America, Steve Rogers dies? Like,
Mhm.
that could happen for 2 or 3 films, after Avengers 3. Which, what better way to end Avengers 3 than with the catastrophic death of at least one of the members, maybe even
Oh yeah.
the first Avenger, right? So I I knowing that, and his future in the franchise, it makes a little more sense maybe that they would name the film after him. I enjoyed watching the first Captain America, seeing when Steve breaks into that German facility and finds Bucky. I don't know if you remember the scene, but he finds Bucky strapped to a medical table
Oh, that's
with
right.
needles and whatnot above him. They've clearly been experimenting on him. They don't, and credit to them, they implant that little scene in there and don't
Exactly.
comment on it at all. Um, but they just lay the groundwork for where they're going in the future, and I thought that was really cool. Um, so yeah, I would have liked to seen a little bit more. I mean, I don't know. Oh, I'm just remembering now because it's been 3 weeks since I saw the film. What is shoot? What is the line? That they flash back, and Steve's real
Oh
young
yeah, and he says something like, "I'm going to go with you
to the end. Yeah,
to
something
the
like
end of the
that.
line, or something like that." Yeah.
Right. And then Steve gets to repeat that for him, and I
Right.
nearly teared up.
Really?
I thought it was great. Like, normally I think that kind of stuff is cheesy, but it really worked for me this time around. I thought it was great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, I'm glad you're not
I
going to
didn't.
tear
I
me
didn't.
down.
I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was horrible, but
Yeah.
it didn't get nearly the emotional response. But I would. I love it when people play the reversal and they can
Yeah.
play it off really well. I think that's cool.
Well, I thought it was really sweet. And the only other thing that I want to mention here was just that I loved when they found the underground bunker and plugged in the thumb drive. And basically, we had uh, Toby, is it Toby Jones who plays Zola? I think that
That
was
sounds. I
his.
don't know off the top of my head.
Excuse me. Yeah, Toby Jones. Pardon me.
Bless you.
Uh, Basically, he was a better and more entertaining version of Johnny Depp in Transcendence than Johnny Depp was in Transcendence.
I was going to ask you if that was better.
His
Although
entire
you did
consciousness.
touch.
Yeah.
Oh man, you touched on probably the most eye-rolling scene.
Mm.
Is so they go into that bunker, right? And that whole moment where he is talking about their whole plan and what they've done, and his whole consciousness is in this computer. That was cool. But they go in this secret bunker and they make a big deal about, oh, they're not supposed to store munitions this close, so this bunker's in the wrong place. And so they go figure it out. And then they're looking around inside, and he goes, if you have a secret bunker, why would you have a hidden elevator? And then it shows them like entering this elevator and then going down several stories.
Oh. But then
And
they're
then
like
they
on the
meet.
surface when the missiles come, right?
But then the missile comes and
Yeah.
immediately blows either a crater so deep that they are now on the surface,
Right.
or all of a sudden they negated the elevator. I remember watching that, and I didn't say anything. I was just like, ah. And all of a sudden my wife turns to me and was like, what
Weren't they way
just
underground?
happened?
That's funny. I think I missed that dude, but you're right.
Yeah, that part just I was like, I'm gonna shelve that. I'm gonna see it.
Yeah. No, I don't think I picked up on it, but yeah, as you were setting it up, it totally flashed for me. All right. Well, that's those are the main points I want to talk about. Anything else you wanted to get in there as really important to discuss?
Well, we kind of glossed over the Falcon,
Yeah.
and his whole aspect. I thought they did a good job not overplaying that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Everything else, like with the first one, this one felt really grounded, and I think it was really well. Everything was done to a nice extent, and then kind of just we're not going to overdo anything. So
Yeah.
I
With
think
a
kudos to that.
really big finale, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And
Big, bombastic. Yeah.
yeah, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a total package. It's a great piece of escapist entertainment that actually has a little bit of a brain behind it and a little bit of heart behind it. Yeah, I mean it really is a total package. Just like you, big guy.
All right.
Hoorah! Did I just do the Marines chant there? What happened?
Well, we were talking about the total package. Gets the testosterone going.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me here tonight, Mike, and thanks for doing your homework and getting back to us on First Soldier. We will be back soon, most likely with an episode on the upcoming Godzilla that I am super excited to see.
I can't believe you're excited about this. I figured if anyone was just going to pass this by, because I never knew you to be a fan of like the whole Godzilla canon and have that.
I'm not a fan of the Godzilla canon. I mean, I've seen the Matthew Broderick Godzilla twice, and it's terrible. But I love the idea of monster movies, like the thrill. It's the same reason, like I love the idea of tornadoes. It's something massive and dangerous and thrilling and
mysterious.
Yeah, the Jurassic Park though is really one of the only ones that satisfies on the level of being a piece of entertainment, being an adventure, and also being legitimately scary.
And plausible.
Well, And anyway, so I see Godzilla and I think I wouldn't mind something that's a little bit darker, that concentrates on the humanity, and just the relationships, and the stakes are, kind of an apocalypse, and being cast back into the Stone Age, and but it's via a monster and not a nuclear holocaust this time,
Right.
or a virus of some kind. So I think that's cool. And Gareth, is it Gareth Evans, Gareth Edwards, who directed Godzilla? This is basically his second film. His first one was almost like a student film. It's called Monsters. I think you can find it on Netflix right now, and it is. It's tremendous, particularly for the budget that they spent on it. It's extremely low budget. There was basically no crew. The actors were acting as crew when they weren't in front of the camera. He
Awesome.
financed most of it himself, I think, and it's a wonderful story. And I think that the producers looked and said, this guy knows how to tell a story. Let's get him to helm a Godzilla movie. And I think, hopefully, that will end up being as brilliant as I think it will be. So yes, I am excited
I
about
think
it.
that's man. I think that's a great call that we should do. Maybe a new segment where we talk about what we hope to see from the upcoming film. If it's something worth talking about, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm super excited about this one. Simon, my son, he's super
Yes.
excited. Having seen the
It'd
trailers.
be great to see that with you guys.
He's looking
Ah,
at it going like he's actually creeped out and frightened by the trailer. And I love that, because it's going to
ah,
be PG-13. It's not going to be, this isn't going to be gross out. This is going to be creating that, oh my gosh, what if this were to happen sort of thing, and place you in
right.
that. And because ultimately all stories that we connect with have to be human stories,
Yeah,
and it's why
right.
Jurassic Park is so good, because it's really about the people. So anyway, that's my hope for this one. And I'll look forward to
Yeah,
talking about it with you in the near future, okay?
I can't wait, man.
All right.
I'm just
Well,
hoping for like a full on, like way back. Yeah, I knew it. I knew it was gonna happen. Um, I'm just hoping full on like blast, like Pacific Rim. Do you remember Pacific
yeah.
Rim and just the blast that you watching the monsters fight with the robots? I think that's what we're in for, and I think there's going to be a lot more. I haven't seen Monsters, so I don't know what his capacity is for telling a story, but I'm intrigued based on what you said, and I think there might be a little bit more going on than just that might
Yes.
fill out what Pacific Rim was missing.
Right. Exactly. Pacific Rim was fun watching giant things slug it out, but what it
Yeah.
missed was any kind of legitimate humanity at all.
Yes.
So I think that you're right, that it could have both. If it has both of those things, it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, let's go check it out, and we'll get
And
back and talk
Aaron
about it.
Taylor Johnson, who, oh my gosh, the Stinger in Captain America, the Winter Soldier. We get to see
Oh yeah.
Quicksilver and I think Scarlet Witch. I don't know if you're familiar with either of those. I'm
I'm
not
not.
super familiar. I'm more familiar with the DC universe, but I was super intrigued by their powers. And Elizabeth Olsen looks so creepy
That's
as
right.
Scarlet Witch, and both of them, Aaron Taylor
Oh, I'm
Johnson
gonna have
as
to look that
Quicksilver
up.
and Elizabeth Olsen as the Scarlet Witch, they are both they play a married couple in Godzilla. And of course, he is from Kick-Ass, she is from Martha Marcy May Marlene, which is another recommendation. It's a fantastic drama that she gives an unbelievable performance in. So she's super talented. Yes, she's the younger sister of the Olsen twins, but whereas they were, child stars and not guarding their acting brand at all, she really has, and she's only picking, it appears to be, really interesting and strong projects. So I think it's gonna be
Man, I
good all
didn't put
around.
that together at all. I didn't see the Olsen twins when I saw her in that stinger, dude. That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's
So
gonna
we
be a lot of
get
fun.
to look forward to them. I think in Avengers 2, maybe they may show up earlier than that. They may be in some of the other Marvel films prior to Avengers 2. Anyway, enough speculation. Mike, it was a great conversation, man, and I'll look forward to
Me
talking about
too.
Godzilla with you soon. Boat drinks.
Yes, let's do it. Boat drinks.